Welcome to this explainer. It's wild to think about, but the average human has tens of thousands of thoughts every single day. And let's be honest, for a lot of us, the vast majority of those default right to the negative. So today, we're diving into this really fascinating intersection of disciplines. We're going to unpack how you can actually use a mix of ancient scripture and modern neuroscience to biologically re-engineer your anxious mind. We hear people talk about changing your mindset all the time, right? But today, we're focusing on something much deeper: physical structural renewal.
Okay, let's just get right into this highly relatable problem. You know that exact moment when you wake up, your body is still cozy in bed, but your mind is already sprinting? It's honestly like some silent architect has already built this massive structure of panic and worry in your head before your feet even hit the floor. You haven't even started your day yet, and boom, you already feel behind. And we so often blame our routines or whatever stressful circumstances we've got going on for this overwhelming feeling.
But here is the really reassuring part. It turns out your brain isn't actually broken. It's really just operating on this default biological survival setting called the negativity bias. What I found absolutely fascinating in the research here is that your brain is quite literally biologically designed to scan for danger. It's an evolutionary trait meant to keep you alive. But if you leave it unchecked, this mechanism automatically defaults your internal narrator to rumination, regret, and, well, fear. But don't worry, because there's a survival manual hidden in plain sight. In this explainer, we're going to map out your exact chronological action plan. First, we'll look at your brain's default setting. Second, the 15-second morning shift. Third, the 3-second neural audit. Fourth, nighttime neural consolidation. And finally, rewiring through rhythm.
All right, jumping right into section 1, your brain's default setting.
The research presents this totally brilliant analogy. Your brain basically acts like Velcro for the bad things and Teflon for the good things. Because of that negativity bias we just talked about, negative experiences stick instantly, while the positive ones just slide right off. And if you don't intentionally choose your focus, your brain's default mode network just takes the wheel. That's the background narrator in your head, and it will automatically fuel this endless loop of overthinking. So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that your brain doesn't just rise to your good intentions, it falls to its conditioning. There's this neuroscientific principle called Hebb's law, which states that neurons that fire together wire together. Meaning, if you rehearse inadequacy or worry or fear for years, your brain literally builds an automatic 8-lane, high-speed interstate for self-doubt. The anxiety feels automatic because neurologically speaking, it is.
Now, modern science calls this ability to physically change your brain based on repetition neuroplasticity. But what's really amazing to uncover is how this ancient text perfectly captures the exact same concept. Every single thought you have acts like fertilizer for your nervous system's pathways. You are physically building the infrastructure of your mind with every passing thought.
Moving on to section 2, the 15-second morning shift.
Have you ever actually considered that the very first thing you engage with dictates your emotional direction for the entire rest of the day? When you first wake up, your brain is in this highly receptive transition state. So instead of instantly grabbing your phone and flooding your nervous system with all that external stress, you can actually take advantage of this biological window. All you have to do is pause for just 15 seconds to set an attention reset. And what's really fascinating here is that you shouldn't just passively read a scripture like this one. No, you must actively reckon it. And by reckon, I mean to deeply consider it. Think about the actual staggering complexity of your DNA. Feel the rhythm of your heartbeat. By doing this for just 15 seconds, you are actively instructing your brain to look for evidence of God's goodness and order rather than letting it default to scanning for chaos and danger.
Next up is section 3, the 3-second neural audit.
Neuroscience reveals this incredible, invisible 3-second window where you can use cognitive reframing to interrupt a neural spark before it erupts into a massive emotional fire. So if you catch yourself spiraling into those what-if scenarios, you have about 3 seconds to relabel that thought. You literally say out loud or just in your head, "That is not true and that is not noble." But here's the catch. You can't just stop a thought. You have to replace it. By immediately replacing that negative thought with this specific biblical filter, focusing on what is true, pure, or lovely, you're physically blocking that bad thought from taking root. You're stopping the anxiety right in its tracks before it even gets the chance to fully form in your nervous system.
This brings us to section 4, nighttime neural consolidation.
All right, so while you sleep, your brain performs this process called synaptic pruning. It essentially acts like a gardener, deciding which neural pathways to strengthen and which ones to just toss out, all based on what you focused on last. If you fall asleep scrolling through screens or reviewing your mental list of worries, you are explicitly telling your brain to keep those stress pathways strong. But we can flip the script by taking just 3 minutes to name 3 specific moments of grace from the day.
By speaking a slow, calm truth like this verse before you sleep, you're doing something deeply physiological. Slow, deliberate speech actually regulates your vagus nerve. This sends a direct, calming signal to your body that the lion is not here, the danger has passed. And because your nervous system feels safe, your sleeping brain goes to work building pathways of peace while you rest, instead of reinforcing panic.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, rewiring through rhythm. You know, transformation isn't about chasing the next massive emotional high. Your brain fundamentally respects rhythm and calm repetition. We're talking just 15 seconds in the morning for your shift, a 3-second audit during the day, and 3 minutes at night for consolidation. These are highly achievable, time-stamped daily interventions that actually work with your biology, not against it.
When you string these rhythmic moments together, the entire architecture of your mind changes. Those narrow, overgrown little footpaths of joy and gratitude, they will slowly widen into smooth, effortless highways of peace. You aren't trying to force yourself into faith or white-knuckle your way to feeling calm. You're simply allowing faith and peace to become neurologically efficient over time.
So the big question, how long does this all take? Well, based on the science of neuroplasticity and Hebb's law, it takes about 21 to 30 days of this rhythmic repetition to truly rewire your default self-concept. Think about that. That is less than a month to transform the physical structure of your mind, from inadequacy and fear being your go-to to having truth act as a reflex.
To deepen this neurological encoding right now through what scientists call motor activation, which is the physical act of doing something to cement a thought, type sacred rewire in the comments below. And I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on. Your brain is building your future self right this very second, thought by thought. Are you going to let fear hold the hammer, or will you take control of the blueprints tomorrow morning? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.